Hello, everyone, and welcome along to the EPL Show here on the Rangers Rabble podcast. This is where we take a bit of a deep dive into the events in the English Premier League from last weekend. My name is Stuart, and I'm your host, and joining me is Scott. Scott, how's things, mate?
Not bad, Stuart, not bad. Looking forward to Aston on this for a while, so I'm looking forward to talking about something else rather than Rangers.
I was just about to say that. It's a welcome break, isn't it, from talking about Rangers? So, look, like I say, we'll just follow our kind of normal format in terms of this is the first time you've watched. Like I say, we just kind of go through the games and talk about the kind of main talking points from the weekend. So, Scott, we'll start on the Friday night game, which was Luton Town, West Ham.
Yep.
West Ham run out 2-1 winners. Obviously, a kind of momentous evening for Luton. First Premiership game at Kenilworth Road. Although I thought West Ham deserved their victory, I did think Kenilworth Road made. Richie and I have been speaking previously on these shows about the fact that they needed to get back to Kenilworth Road as quickly as possible to give them an opportunity. But overall, they're still coming up short. It's going to be, nobody's under any illusions. It's going to be a tough season for Luton Town. But they did put up a good fight of it. They were in the game till very late on, got a goal back. But also a very solid start to the season for West Ham.
Very solid. I don't know if this Europa Conference one has gave them this confidence to go forward, but I think it's a bit. They've got a Declan Rice, who was probably one of their main players, and they've all had to step up to the plate now because he's not there. And to be honest with you, they're playing really good football. Moyes is doing a great job. He gets a lot of abuse, David Moyes, at times, but I think the conditions he works under compared to other teams in that league is money-wise is different. I think he does a great job at West Ham, and I'm actually enjoying watching him play now. And the boy Jared Bowen, I don't know how much longer he'll be there, because obviously other bigger teams are eyeing him up, because when he came from Hull City, you thought, didn't buy him for a lot, and they thought they'll do okay for West Ham, but he's just taking his game to another level. But listen, West Ham are playing really well. They look at a team, like I say, full of confidence. They get players that can hurt you, Stuart, not just one or two. They've got guys that can hurt you. And Moyes is always going to have been a guy who people say defensively minded. West Ham plays some good stuff going forward. For Luton, I don't know. I think Luton's going to struggle. I think they're punching well above their weight. I think the manager tries to play them a certain style, and I think they do okay. I hope I'm wrong here, but I think they could be chasing the Derby County points total. I don't think they'll get many points this season.
Yeah, I mean, that has crossed my mind as well, actually, about just whether or not that kind of points total record could be under threat from, well, potentially the three promoted clubs. They've got 1 point between them as things currently stand. But certainly Luton Town, you're right. I think well, look, I don't think even the fans are under any illusion about how difficult it would potentially be. And I 100% agree with you on Bowen. I think he looks as if his games just went up another level. And he's now adding. He was a goal scorer, but I think he's now adding goals on a consistent basis. And some of the goals he's scoring are absolutely are worldies. So
I think a goal superb.
Yeah.
Even if he can hit it first time, but sometimes he composes himself because he knows I'm going to put it to the left, put it to the right, and he runs into the box. It's very hard to mark as well. He's just a really good player at the moment.
Absolutely. So let's say a tough start for Luton, probably as expected, but a really, really positive start for West Ham. It'll be interesting to see how they continue that. On to Saturday then, Scott, and we'll start at Bramall Lane, Sheffield United to Everton, finally getting goals, which is Richie and I discussed in previous shows, that they'd actually had an XG of around 4.5 and hadn't been able, had scored 0 goals. So I think there was an inevitability that they would get goals eventually. I think Beto seems to have. He looks a player. I think he'll cause teams issues. Looks he's a big lad. Clearly got a lot of physical stress, but looks decent on the ground as well. So they finally got off the mark. They'd taken the lead through Decore. We then Archer scores a really good winner. We've had links with Archer in the past. I think he looks a very good player. A Pickford own goal, which was really unfortunate coming off the post and hitting him back. But then Danjuma getting the equaliser, and there was a kind of spate right at the end where both teams had opportunities. Pickford's absolutely kind of made up for his that own goal by a kind of a really impressive double save right at the end. But it was a big game, almost classed as a bit of a relegation 3-pointer this early in the season. So maybe no surprise that it ended in a draw.
It was a game you actually enjoyed watching because both teams actually went for it. It didn't sit back and think, we need to get a point here, we need to defend this. They actually went to try and win it, and Sheffield United are playing actually quite well, and he's got them trying to play attacking stuff. They've spent a bit of money, don't get me wrong. They'll probably get more money to spend than Everton, to be honest with you, but I'm actually happy for Everton because I've seen a couple of games since the season started, and they've actually played okay, like you said, up until putting the ball in it, and that's where they failed. They've missed a lot of chances, and for a club besides Everton, for any club in any league, I suppose, missing chances isn't great, but last season they were struggling to create chances. But this season they're creating the chances and struggling to put them in. So I'm happy for them. I quite like Sean Dyche, I have to say, and I'm happy they got the point. And Jordan picked first save at the end. You seen him with a wee smile, didn't you? Because he was like, thank God I managed to get that. But listen, Everton are a good side. I think they will struggle throughout the season on it just because of the not putting the ball in the net. And hopefully they don't get dragged into the relegation battle, because I take to see them going down. It's one of these clubs that I don't mind being in the English Premiership because they've always been there, and I'm not saying I've got a soft spot for them, but probably because my son used to play Everton Boys Club, I've got a soft spot. But no, don't mind them, to be honest with you. Everton are quite, and I say I like Sean Dyche. Sheffield United will do well, I feel. I think they'll do a lot better than Luton. I think they'll give as good as they've got, especially at Bramall Lane. I'll be away from home, they might struggle, but I think when they're at Bramall Lane, they'll attack teams.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with on the Everton point. I think the main concern you've got though is that they look as if they'll concede every game. I think defensively they don't look strong. Although nice to see Nathan Patterson getting a run of games, and it was a really good assist that he had at the weekend. So be interested to see once Seamus Coleman's back whether or not he comes back in, or whether Dyche decides to stick with Patterson. That'll be interesting. Really another entertaining game in terms of Brentford and Bournemouth. Then another 2-each draw. I mean, tons of goals in the Premiership. Not just this weekend, but at the whole start of the season, there's been tons of goals actually. But a 2-each draw at home to Bournemouth. Taking the lead early doors, Jensen getting the goal when it was well over the line. It took a bit of time. The referee's watch not working, but eventually they got well over the line. Solanke scoring, and then really good to see David Brooks actually, after all that he's went through, getting his goal. And it took then a 93rd minute equaliser from Mbemo to get the point. We've kind of wax lyrical about Brentford on this show. They're really good, and Thomas Frank's a really exciting manager to watch how he puts his teams out. I thought about the same about Bournemouth this season. I think they've been a good watch.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see, whether or not they get dragged into that relegation battle, or maybe they'll just have enough to kind of say. But I think they will be a decent watch, and they'll be disappointed just not to see that through.
They will be, because I thought they played quite, only seen the highlights, but I thought they played quite well, and they brought a new manager as well at the start of the season, didn't they? I can't remember his name, and I think I heard of the chat before, but he seems to have set him up quite well. And I agree with you and David Brooks. It was great to see the boys scoring, especially with his
Areola. He came from La Liga, didn't he? Yeah, I mean, he started in the second tier in Spain, and managed to get teams promoted and kind of stabilise them in the first division of La Liga. So it's clearly something about him.
Yeah, I mean, tactically he's probably very astute. So no, they set up well, and it's a good sign they made in Justin Kluivert. He's been about recently. I know he was at Roma and he was at Ajax, but he's never really settled. So if he can settle there, he'll be a good addition, because he's still young, but the boy's a very good player. And I thought they played well, but same with Brentford. I know Brentford are missing the boy up top, Ivan Toney, but it doesn't seem to set them back. The other players who've stepped up to play scoring goals. Thomas Frank sets his teams up really well. I said to you last season, I'm surprised nobody's made a move on him yet, because I think he's a very good manager. And both of them will be fine this season, I feel, to be honest with you, Stuart. I feel they'll get more points and well more than enough. They need to stay in the league, and I think they'll not be afraid to play anybody, to be honest with you. I think they'll play the same against, if it's playing against Man City or playing against Brighton or playing against Wales, they'll play the same, because I think that's the way the two managers set out. Maybe a wee bit more defensively against City, because teams are, but they'll give it a go because they've got a lot of talented players in their squad. And some of the players, like, you need, some of them, you look at and you think, I've not really heard of him before, but both of them have got good scouting networks, and then know how to pick a player from different areas of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, it's just whether or not can Brentford take that next step up. You know, can they kind of get almost to that kind of Brighton level? That'll be the interesting one to watch. Burnley 2, Spurs 5, Scott, and I really mean a really solid start for Burnley in terms of getting a really early goal. But there just seems to be a naivety to them a bit, and I felt that about Luton, and I felt that a wee bit about Burnley, you know, who were hugely impressive in their championship winning season. But Vincent Kompany talks about, you know, they need to learn. They're going to need to learn quickly, because, you know, when you watch the highlights of this game, they're in the game, but they're leaving themselves 2-on-2 at the back, and that jump in level from the Championship to the Premiership, you might get away with some of that in the Championship, but at Premiership level, if you lose the ball, you turn it over, and you're leaving yourself 2-on-2, you're going to cause yourself massive problems there. And for Spurs, you know, that feel-good factor that seems to be around the place just seems to be continuing, doesn't it?
It does, and obviously we all know who the Spurs manager is, but Andrews went there and he brought in a couple of players that maybe people didn't think he would bring in, because obviously when a manager leaves somewhere and they go to they always go back to their former club for players, but he's not done that. He's brought in guys like Mickey Van de Ven, he's brought in the keeper, he's brought in a couple, and they're playing really good football. And I know Harry Kane's not there, but like I said the other day, and I think I said it in the chat, maybe that's a good thing for Spurs.
Well, Scott, I was going to ask you on that, because I said this to Richie a couple of weeks ago. Do you think that losing Harry Kane has been a blessing in disguise?
I think it has been. I think he was a talisman for so long, and when things weren't going right, they looked to him. I think even like Son looked to him at times. I think everything was like, I had to go through Harry. I think everything went through Harry when he played. But he's not there, so they had to change it up. I mean, a new manager without him, he's not been used to playing with Harry Kane, so he's come in thinking, well, he's not there anymore. I'm going to do it my way, and it's given Son so much freedom. And we all know how good a player he is. Don't get me wrong. I remember him watching for Hamburg years ago. He's against Celtic at Celtic Park. I went to game and he was playing up front of Hamburg. That's how long ago it was, and he's superb. He's discipline, his awareness, just his work rate all over the park, but he gets you goals. But the signing James Maddison's been a great sign.
Yeah.
For what it cost, he's just been given a freedom to say, you just go and play in that free role. Probably type of role Rangers should give Todd Cantwell, but we don't. But he's been given that role as in to say, you just go and do what you do best. And you can see he's putting with a smile on his face. He's creating goals, he's scoring goals. And yeah, they leave maybe space at the back because that's the way Ange plays, and they will maybe get punished by playing maybe against the likes of City and Liverpool, Arsenal. But he's playing football as Spurs fans are enjoying, they're scoring goals. And I'm not saying they forgot about Harry Kane, but I thought some of the fans might think that he's away, we're going to struggle. But at this moment in time, it's been opposite effect. And I think it will be. I think they'll do okay this season. I don't think they'll finish top 4, but I don't think they'll be outside the top 6.
Yeah, I mean, I think Maddison has been sensational since the start of the season. Absolutely, really interested to see what Southgate does with him. You know, and with regards to England, can he force his way in there? And it will be interesting. I mean, whether or not teams start to work around what Ange does and maybe trying to exploit that. But at the moment, yeah, they're getting real joy for that. Those inverted fullbacks. Porro played an absolutely beautiful ball through to Son from that, and they're just, as he did with Celtic. They do kind of create overloads in the middle of the park, and it is working at the moment. So again,
when you get poor technical ability of Maddison, but and Son, you get opportunity. You're 9 out of 10 times you're going to take it. But maybe James Maddison should join Man City, no play for a season, and he'll still be included in the England squad.
Who knows? A result that Richie and I've struggled a wee bit when we've discussed Chelsea, Scott, and that's because you've watched them in some games and actually I've been quite impressed with them. I thought, you're starting to see what he's doing and, the bedding in of players. Then other games you're thinking, there's still work to be done. Chelsea losing at home to Notts Forest. Now, Notts Forest time, who last season we absolutely talked about the fact that their home record absolutely saved them, but to stop them from being in another relegation battle this season, they would have to improve from away from home. Their start, actually, in terms of they played well at the Emirates in the opening day. I thought, did really well. And then to go to Stamford Bridge and win. So, a huge result.
They probably should have got something at Old Trafford as well, Stuart, to be honest with you.
Well, that's true, yeah. And they played very well there as well, 2-0 up. And that you're right on that. So, really impressive start for them in terms of, not only picking up results, but maybe also how they're playing. But from a Chelsea point of view, it's almost they get one step forward and then they're kind of the next week they're almost back to where they started again, isn't it? And I just wonder how this season's going to pan out for Chelsea. It could be a bit of a struggle. I think there could be good results in there and some bad results.
Yeah, I think when you look at this Forest back three, Willie Bolly, Joe Worrell and Scott McKenna, know what I mean? It's not going to set the head on fire, but they do a job because Steve Cooper, he knows the boys might be one of the best players, but they can defend. Willie Bolly's good at aerial threats. McKenna and Worrell are fine defensively, tackling and heading the ball away. They do their job, and he's got their players wanting a system they enjoy and they trust them, whereas you look at Chelsea, I mean, the 4 midfielders on Saturday all get replaced. At one point during the game, replacing 4 midfielders. So they've signed players for a lot of money. They've signed probably too many players, in my opinion. They're signing guys for the sake of signing guys, giving them 7-8 year contracts. And then it's like, we'll get in the team in 3 years' time. That's what it's like because they've got that many players. And we're talking about Bill not knowing he's starting 11. I don't think Poch knows he's starting 16, to be honest with you, even though he puts on the bench. He's got that many players there. And he does, and they've not got anybody you can look at that Chelsea side and say, he's the first name in the team sheet because they've got so many players. But they've got a lot of players there, Stuart, who in the last couple of seasons haven't done a lot to say they should be the first name in the team sheet. And they're signing players like Caicedo. He came from Brighton where he was settled. He knew the system. He was playing really well. He knew the guys around about him. Now he's came to Chelsea thinking, what are we playing here? Who am I playing with? What's my position? He looks lost to me, and he's just in the door. Conor Gallagher, I think, should have left. He should have went somewhere else. I think the boy's got so much potential. You seen him at Palace, how good he was, and he's come back to Chelsea and he's stifled. Chilwell, supposed to be a wing back. Ben Chilwell's a good player, but I don't know. I don't know what Chelsea are going to do. They've got Sterling, who I like Raheem Sterling, but he's probably, I'm not saying, do you think he's maybe going down the other side of his career? He's hit his peak and he's starting to go down now.
We talked about this last week, actually, or the week before, in terms of, I'm amazed he's only 29. He feels as if he's been, it's incredible.
I remember watching him against Hearts at Tynecastle when he was 15 when he played for Liverpool.
Yeah, he's been around for a long, long time. And Richie made a very similar point that in 10 years' time we'll probably be thinking that Phil Foden is probably in his 50s, because we've been talking and watching him so long. So, but I think Sterling's had a very impressive start through the season. Actually, he looked as if that kind of dynamism and pace that he had was back, and he was becoming a real threat.
Sometimes when players that start early, like Mike Cohen, maybe Wayne Rooney at your point, because he started in the first team that early, they can burn out before other guys later in their career, because if they lose that wee spark, like you say, his pace. If that goes in, he's lost a part of his game, which is one of his strongest points. So, no, he's always going to score goals.
I just wonder, Scott, whether or not the loss of Nkunku is maybe not being talked about enough. You know, I know they brought in Jackson and stuff like that, and he finally got off the mark the week before. Then he's missed a bit of a sitter at the week. I thought Nkunku could be a real player for Chelsea, because I was very impressed when we came up against him at Leipzig. I thought he caused us a lot of problems, and I just wonder, you know, is it possibly that we're just overlooking that injury and that loss and the impact that's had on Poch's plans for the season going forward?
I don't think so, because the amount of players he's got, you look at their bench is worth millions, multi-millions, and they've got guys in that bench who could probably walk into most other sides. But I don't know, Poch knows his strongest team. The problem with Chelsea is, and I think it's been a problem for the last, I don't know, probably since Josie's been there the second time. It's the egos in the dressing room.
Yeah.
And they're on so much money and long contracts, they know they're not going to get the sack. And if they don't like the manager, I've done it before at the club, they do certain things and the manager leaves and brings somebody else in. It's not, I don't think it's the best run club off the park. I think financially they're spending money like it's getting out of fashion. I don't know why. I don't know how they can do it, other clubs can't. I think because maybe sold so much players to Saudi and they've got money back in. But the 7-8 year contract shouldn't happen for me. I just maybe for another side, but I think that shouldn't happen. I think if you give something a contract, it's fine, 3, 4, 5 years. 7-8 year contracts.
Back to the Jim McLean days,
Jim McLean. As a fan, but if when you're signing somebody, Stuart, and they say, right, we've gave him an 8-year contract, are you not thinking to yourself, what? An 8-year contract? Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think
I do like the fact that they always badge it. It's an 8-year contract with the option of another year. Really, you maybe understand that if it was a 2-year that you might. But yeah, look, yeah. I mean, I think their spendings went over through the £1 billion, you know, and it's. It's been a bit of a shit show.
I still don't think Poch was the right man for the job. I think he found it at PSV where he struggled against Eagles. I think Chelsea's the same issue. I think they need somebody, and I know they want to go get Josie back, but somebody with that character, somebody who doesn't give a toss what the players say to him, because at the end of the day, he's the boss. I don't know if Poch has got that in him. I think he struggled at Spurs at times with some of the players. There's PSV, obviously, with Messi and Neymar, and Mbappe, and then Chelsea. He's going to have a lot of guys question him quite early on, thinking, really? And I don't know if that's just Chelsea themselves or the players they bring in. I don't know. I mean, they could turn that around because they've got a lot of good players. They've got a lot of players in that you would think they should be challenging for something, because some of the players have got are really good footballers. But for some reason, I don't know what it is, but they don't seem to be able to hit it off whoever's in charge. And they get, I mean, if it put some of the players up for sale, people would be buying them because they're really good footballers.
Absolutely.
They spent a hell of a lot of money, and I don't know if a lot of it was necessary, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we will. I think I go back to what I said at the start when we talked about this game. I think you'll see Chelsea playing well in certain weeks, and they will get some big results. But I do wonder if there'll be, some results like Saturday. But fair play to Steve Cooper and Nottingham Forest. That's a really impressive result to go there and win and keep a clean sheet as well. We'll move on to Man City then, who played Fulham. Now, on the face of it, you look at this result, 5-1, a Haaland hat-trick, and you might say, well, yeah, a fairly bog standard day at the office for Man City, and it was by the end of it.
Yeah.
But you know, Fulham were very well organised. They were in the game to the 31st minute for Alvarez to give City the lead, but Fulham went straight up the park and got the equaliser. And you know, there's a goal well into injury time in the first half. I want to get your thoughts on, Scott, in terms of Nathan Ake's header, and how on earth is Akanji not being classed as interfering with play and offside for that goal? I'm surprised it wasn't given straight away, and I'm even more surprised that it hasn't been given when it's been reviewed by VAR. I mean, Marco Silva has a bit of a reputation of picking up, suspensions and yellow cards for having go at officials, and he would have been well within his right to be picking up a yellow or a red card for that, because it's just a scandalous decision, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if it happened against Roma and Josie was there, the telly would have been probably up in the air by now, because Mourinho's right the same. But listen, you're asking about VAR. People operate VAR are pointless this weekend to me. Every game I've watched, he made a decision I'm not agreed with. But no, I don't understand. I watched, I think, Dermot Gallagher it was talking about that. Was it Mike Dean? I can't remember. And he was saying, I think it was Saturday, Mike Dean was talking about, he was in soccer, he was in the soccer panel, was it, on Saturday? And he was saying, that's not a goal for him. He said he's interfering with play, sticks his foot out, he doesn't get connection, but he puts the keeper off, and he's offside anyway. So
and you can tell by his reaction, he almost does this kind of, I didn't do anything, ref, because I think he knows he's made a movement to the ball as well.
But I think, I don't know, VAR, like I've said at the start, it's never been an issue. It's the people who operate it is the issue, and understanding how to operate it. Means VAR brought into, you maybe think, well, like the ref's not seen it, so we're not really going to look at it. But it's like, well, Fred misses it, we'll go and look at it. I don't know. To me, it should have been a goal. I still don't. I've never heard one person on Sky or anywhere else talking about saying it was a goal. Everybody's opinion was it wasn't a goal. So it shouldn't have been a goal. But that should be, when you get technology in football, people blame that because it's an easy route to escape into it. It wasn't my fault. VAR said it was a goal. No, VAR never said it was a goal. It was a person operating VAR. VAR can't operate itself. I just think it's an excuse now to say, well, VAR is no great. But and even if I was down in a local park and you're watching that and the referee would blow for a goal saying that's offside, that's not a goal. Anybody can have seen that's not a goal. So I don't understand why it was given. But I think when it was given, it gave Man City the impetus to come out at the second half. I'm not saying Fulham's heads were down, but they felt a bit cheated, which they probably felt cheated in Manchester before, because if a viewer of decisions at Old Trafford, and you'd probably come out and says, doesn't matter what we do here, we're not going to get a Robbie Green, and City, obviously with Haaland up front, the boy just scores goals. He might not do a lot of stuff, people say, but don't really need him to do a lot of stuff, Stuart, when you're getting a hat-trick every so often, do you?
No, well, our last pod on the Patreon service, we talked about Haaland potentially being human, missing penalties and so on. But he looked back to his imperious best on Saturday. Just the half a chance, or just sniffing out these chances, and his pace, his power, and his ability to put the ball in the back of the net. It's
his awareness in the box. He doesn't even have to look at the goal. He knows where it is straight away.
Yeah,
he knows where the keeper's position.
And I think that is the opening goal on the opening day of the season against Burnley was the example of that, where he's just whipped it in, doesn't need to look, and he knows where it is. So, look, at the end, a very comfortable victory for City, but I think the big talking point there, a really, really poor decision by VAR to get them in front at half time, and then we'll move on into the late game on Saturday then, which was Brighton against Newcastle. Now, Brighton are a bit of the darlings of this podcast. We absolutely love them here.
Rich got a season ticket.
I think he's trying to be given one, the way he talks about them. But they'd obviously had a disappointing result against West Ham, and then Newcastle come around, and they're 3-0 up after 70 minutes. And I want to get your thoughts on, before we touch on Newcastle, how good can Evan Ferguson be, Scott? As a teenager walking away with a hat-trick, and every time I see him, he looks more and more impressive. He looks as if he's got a bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's the type of player that you look at and think, you want to mind him at your club leading your line. And I said that last season about mine, that maybe everyone look at him. Listen, if you're going to get a chance in the Premiership at that age, even last season, and they're playing every week, there's something about the boy. But you can see just the way he plays the game, he controls the ball well, he's very sharp around about the box, and he can finish. And as a centre forward, that's all you want a person to do, he can finish. But Brighton, Stuart, they let players go left, right and centre because other clubs win in Portugal. You just seem to have an endless supply of talent coming through, don't they?
Yeah.
And how long is that going to last for? If I was a Brighton fan, that would be my only worry, but you would be enjoying it just now because you can never say never about winning anything, but the probably Brighton fans think we're probably not going to win a lot. But watching Dezebre, watching the players, watching the last couple of seasons, you must be going home for games actually thrilled that you've been there because some of the football they play is phenomenal. And I think if they did win anything, everybody would be happy, even if you never supported them. Because watching Brighton, you really enjoy it. You enjoy what they do, you enjoy what they see, and they're a breath of fresh air sometimes as in watching maybe your own club, Brighton. So, no, I enjoy what they're doing. Like I say, I think they're really good to watch. And if they're on the telly, I always make sure I watch the games, I get the highlights because I know they can beat that week, but I was a bit disjustice to West Ham because West Ham are playing really well now, and I think maybe caught me in the hot, but no, Brighton. Listen, they're just you can't say anything bad about them as a football club because they've been down at the very bottom, lost their ground down in the bottom of the leagues, and then they've come back up, but they've worked their way back up over time. But now, off the park and on the park, they're doing everything spot on.
Yeah, I mean, Richie and I talked about the fact that West Ham appear to sit in, and that seemed to cause Brighton problems, and West Ham were able to then kind of break on them, and that was a slight concern because I didn't think Howe would do that with Newcastle, and I've mentioned before, just for work, I work with Geordies. I'm down in the city quite often, and I spoke to them on one of them on Monday, and they're disappointed with obviously how the start to this season has when they got a really, really good result against Villa, which was probably, probably the result flattered them slightly. But hey, you're beating Villa 5-1. That you've got to take that. But there are already, and whether this is fair or unfair, there are already murmurings supposedly around the city about Eddie Howe. And, you think, right, that's ridiculous. But if he has another 2 or 3 poor results, you probably can see the pressure building, Scott. And I will caveat that with saying that I think they've had quite a tough run of fixtures, maybe the toughest in the league so far. So you would maybe start to see them picking up, but it's not quite the same as what it was last year. And I don't think I think most sensible Newcastle fans would have maybe expected there might be a bit of a drop off. They got further than what they were expecting last year, but that raises the expectations, doesn't it?
It does. Well, I think last year, I'm not saying it was a surprise package, but people never expect them to do as well as they did, like you've said. I'm actually quite happy on doing that. Well, Stuart, I know my favourite club at all. I'm gutted I'm not seeing any dressing room pictures right enough and I'm getting beat instead of when they're winning. No, I think the owners in Newcastle, they're not the type of owners to sit and wait to see if he gets results. I can agree with you. I feel 1 or 2 other results, they'll probably just say, nope, that's enough, we'll bring somebody else in. They've got the money, they've got the backing, they can go and probably have a pick a few good managers out there. Listen, they've spent a bit of money, but when you look at their squad and you look at other teams' squad, their squad's okay. It doesn't stand out to other teams. I mean, Chelsea's got a better squad of players on paper than they have. You look at Brighton, and you probably say Brighton would get players that can match them, maybe if not better. So they've got a good few players in there. Tonelli, Bruno, Joe Linton, but the boy up front, Isaac, Trippier, Nick Pope's a decent keeper, but are they better than players at other teams? So I think sometimes maybe they're expecting too much, but that's what happens when you manage a team who live in a city where everybody's a Newcastle fan. They've got a fantastic support. They go everywhere. They've been starved of success for years. When's the last time they won something? Honestly, do you know what I mean? So I couldn't even tell you. I know they won the Intercity Fair.
I was just going to say the first cup, maybe.
But I couldn't tell you the last time we watched winning. So they've been starved for success and they're desperate for it. So I can get they maybe took 2 steps ahead of themselves as fans saying, well, we've signed all these players. We finished 3rd last season, whatever was 2nd. We can crack on now. But the Premier League's not like that in England because you can't stand still because whatever you spend, look at Chelsea, look at City, Liverpool, Arsenal, United, they all spend money as well. So it's a very tough league. And we all know if you finish above Man City, you can win the league. But I don't think anybody will. But it's going to be hard for this season because in the Premier League, anybody on their day can beat anybody else. I think, will they let him ride the storm? I don't know. It depends on the next couple of games. But like I said, I don't think they'd be pulling the plug and saying, no, we're getting somebody else into the place. You thanks, Eddie. Here's £17 million. Go and enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? I think that's the way football works. When we get money, Stuart, I don't think they're too fussed about sacking you because they just pay you off and can bring somebody else in. It's different maybe in other leagues, but I think the money involved in English Premiership and the owners stuff, I think that's the way it works down there. So he probably knows that himself. And I quite like Eddie, how I think he's a level-headed guy. And he's probably done better than a lot of people expected at Newcastle. And that may be on his own head because he's done that well. They want a lot more from him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting in terms of that dynamic that they now face of having to play midweek European football and what is a very, very, very difficult Champions League group that they've got. How do they then react to then coming back on the Saturday? Is the squad strong enough to kind of deal with that? And yeah, like you're 100%. The cases of Premiership club board members and chairmen showing a bit of loyalty and faith is few and far between, isn't it? You'll see far more. So, it will be interesting to see how they do. But I do caveat, I think they have had a tough start in terms of their fixtures. But it's he's going to start picking up some points, and I think Newcastle fans accept that as well. So we then move on to Sunday. Scott, and we'll start with Crystal Palace, who beat Wolverhampton Wanderers 3-2. An interesting game in that Roy Hodgson was delighted with the victory, wasn't particularly happy with how they played, but has been around the game long enough to know that that's a really good sign to see that, you're picking up the 3 points. And I thought this game, obviously, Hodgson and Edward got 2 goals, but star of the show was Eze, who, seemed back to that kind of the best that we've seen of him, particularly towards the tail end of last season when Hodgson came in. I think Palace have done well. I think some people were wondering, Saha leaving, Elise with that injury, although he signed a new contract. They'd kind of lost that 3 that were really dynamic and really caused they weren't all together again. But that's again another solid start to the season for Palace.
Yeah, he's a wily old fox, Roy Hodgson, isn't he? He knows his stuff. He sets his stall out because he plays to the player's strengths. Not many managers do that these days, but he does. And he makes them difficult to beat. And they've always got goals in them. Edward has scored a couple of goals. The boy Edgy's a good player. But he was linked with Man City, wasn't he? It was who City was trying to get.
Yeah.
I mean, they've even got Jeffrey Stroop up there, who was at Leicester, and he's been a few different teams, been about. But if you've got a player in your squad like Roy has, these guys, I know big names, there might be guys who maybe you think he's done now, but he believes in them, and if you get a manager who believes in you and plays to your strengths, you're going to get the best out of them. And I just feel that's what he does, and as long as he's here, Palace will be fine. Palace won't be anywhere near relegation because of their manager, not because of the players, because their manager sets out that well. Wolves have been struggling, but they played okay as well. But no, Roy's good at what he does, and it'll be a sad day when he leaves football because he's one of these guys who's, even at his age, he seems to have managed to go along with football with all the changes in it. He's still managing to make an impact because he can rotate his game and change his managing style for football nowadays. But he's a guy I've always liked. I think he'd get a rotting cracky whip at Liverpool. I think he may be right manager, wrong club, but I think he does well at Palace, and it was a good move bringing him back.
Yeah, and from a Wolves perspective, not the ideal preparation. We've talked about this in the past on this show about having to losing a manager just before the season starts. Gary O'Neill having to come in, who I rate. I think he's a very decent manager, but they are losing Nunez, to City just in the transfer window. I think they've performed well enough. I think Wolves, they had a decent, really good performance at Old Trafford, etc. But this could be a long, long season for them. They are creating chances, though. I think that will go in their favour. But a bit similar to to what we previously mentioned, with Everton, it's at the back that I have a bit of a fear for them. That you don't see them picking up many clean sheets.
No, and I feel we'll win the Premier League now for a while, but I feel this season they've maybe struggled to stay in it. They've been playing bad, like you said. They've just been letting in far too many goals. They're creating chances, but every time whoever they're playing against up at the end of the park, there's a good chance that the other team will score. So I think he has to kind of sort that out at the back. I know he did come in quite late on, and he probably didn't have a lot of money to play with, and then they sold Nunez quite late on, so they couldn't get a replacement in for him either. So he's probably looking forward to the January window to maybe get some reinforcement in, but until then he's going to have to play with the cards he's got there, players he's got, and I think they will struggle. I hope they don't go down, because I don't mind Wolves. I think they've entertained the Premier League since they've come into it, but I feel they've lost a lot of players that they've had who were really good footballers, and you look at their squad of players and there's nobody really there you can say you can hang a hat on and say, I'll get me 10, 15 goals a season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Nunez transfer might help them a wee bit come January. They were obviously under severe pressure, financial fair play, etc. as well. So, you worry about whether or not in January will they be able to kind of maybe buy their way out of it as well. So, tough gig for Gary. And if he does well with that, fair play to him. The second last game then was Liverpool home to Aston Villa. I'm not sure I expected it to be just quite as comfortable as it was, a 3-0 victory for Liverpool. But maybe I've been a bit harsh there, because there does seem to be the shoots of a kind of revival for Liverpool in terms of the players that Klopp's brought in, a freshness about them. They're starting to gel and starting to play decent football.
Yeah, I think you've seen it against Newcastle. They went 1 down, they get a man sent off, and instead of just collapsing in a heap and saying, we'll just limit this to 1-0, we'll go home and regroup, they dug in, which I've not done. They didn't really do a lot that last season, but they dug in, they fought for each other. I think that comes for Klopp, to be fair. I think he's resolute like that, and there's a few murmurs during the summer about maybe replacing him, but he knows he's been around the block, he's done it, and you said they've signed a lot of players. They've signed the players who maybe didn't bat eyelids, but he's signed guys who fit into his team, fit into what he wants to do. He'll play to their strengths, and some of their signings have been really good. And listen, Mo Salah starting to score goals there, and you can see why they're desperate to hang on to him. The Saudis only going to go away because what the money they're offering is none to them. But he probably knows, if I hang on another season, I can go the next season and get that. So, because that's what you'll get. But if you hang on to Mo Salah, I'm like you, I see them maybe challenging City, because I see them. They've got something about them this season. They've lost Henderson, Milner, but they brought in younger guys. Fitter guys who are believing what the manager's telling them. And they're starting to. The only worry for me, Liverpool, is up against maybe somebody better than Villa at the back. I feel they're still quite. We're not the same at the back. I feel Van Dijk's not the player he was. So I feel they can get caught out. But going middle to front, they're actually looking quite good.
Interesting you mentioned that, because do you see them as the biggest challengers to City now?
I think it's probably them and Arsenal, to be fair. I think the two of them, but I feel if it went to take turns between them and Arsenal, who would challenge most, I'd probably go to Liverpool, just because their experience being down that road. Arteta, to me, still too. Don't know, his dynamics change a lot of times. I feel Arsenal need to dig in more at times. I know I've done it on Sunday, but I feel when it comes to the crunch at the end of the business end of the season, they might fall a game. Whereas Liverpool have seen it and done it, and I feel they could push City just more. But like I said, I feel City will win the league, Stuart, unless they think with themselves, explode themselves. I feel there's not really any challenges. I feel when you've got a boy Haaland up front, if he stays fit, it's like a cheat code for City, innit? He's always going to score goals. But no, I feel Liverpool will finish in the top 4 quite easy.
What about Villa then? They've had some decent results, but they've taken some beatings here, and I worry about them defensively. I think that's the kind of the one area where I just, I'm not convinced by what I'm seeing from them in terms of personnel wise there. So yeah, again, another kind of interesting start to the season, and they obviously have European football. They've obviously got the master of European football as a manager in that. But again, that's it's not something that as a club and as players that they will have experienced a lot. That Thursday, Sunday kind of element going to come into their game.
No, I think they'll be fine, as in they'll probably just finish mid-table. Villa, they've got a decent squad of players, but like you, they took some beatings, and which I didn't expect because they're usually quite well organised. But they're going to be, they'll probably be fine at home. It's away from home. The away for them may cost them getting anywhere into. They'll finish maybe top 12, top 10, but I feel the away for them is going to cost them because as soon as Liverpool scored, they didn't really get back into the Matty Cash, OG, and then you think the heads went down.
They did.
But if that was a Liverpool of old, as in a cut season ago, I could have finished 5 or 6, 7. But after Mo Salah scored, Liverpool were comfortable with that and not done a couple of chances. But it was like the game is done. There was nothing with Villa. It was quite disappointing because the Villa fans are probably going there thinking we could try and put a performance in here and maybe nick something. But after 2 minutes, that story tale's finished and you're thinking we're going to get beat here.
Yeah, and then that takes us to the last game of the weekend. Sorry, and obviously particularly keen to get your thoughts on this as a Manchester United fan. But Arsenal Man United, look, always a big game. I do enjoy watching it, and the atmosphere, that rivalry, which always seems to bubble away under the surface between the two clubs. I kind of not much of nothing really happening in the game, but then United got the park. A poor ball. Played into the middle. Eriksen breaks away a really great ball to Rashford who finishes well. And similar to what we've seen with Rangers, you get that goal. I think what you want, and then the PSV game I'm talking about here, right? Next 5 minutes is important. But Arsenal go straight up the park, get the equaliser, and then again there was kind of, I think Arsenal probably were slightly the better team in this. And then you have this kind of incident right at the end, a really, really tight, offside decision for Garnacho. He doesn't need to go that early. If he holds his run, he's in. Nobody's going to catch him. And then, really poor defending from United, which, looking at some of the analysis that's been done on the game, Rice was picking up just pockets of space at the back post throughout the game, and nobody seems to have dealt with it. And then, right at the end, Jesus manages to kind of go away and get a third. So, big win for Arsenal. I think that keeps that momentum that they've been building. United are a strange one for me, Scott. I'm really keen to get your views on it. I've got my doubts about Ten Hag. I think he's done a decent job. I don't feel he's getting the results, and I wonder how long that will be allowed to continue. And I just see things in game where I'm thinking you need to sort that, whether that's Casemiro that being allowed just to be on his own in the midfield, or like I mentioned, Rice with the corner. Where are you at the moment?
I actually thought Sunday they played really well. I thought it was the best I've seen them. Disappointment-wise, I thought their shape was better than it has been. Because even at home, teams were running through the middle of them. I thought Eriksen played really well, I have to say. Casemiro was a bit better, but people forget he's 30. He's never going to be. He's not the player he was at Real Madrid. He done really well when he came in, but he needs help middle of the park. That's why they brought in Amrabat, but he didn't feature. But I thought if Amrabat comes on, I think it might be a bit better. But I thought the shape was good. I thought Anthony doesn't do a lot going forward at the moment, but I thought he was well disciplined. They done a lot of tracking back. I done all helping out at full-backs. I didn't think Arsenal was scoring, to be fair, until late on. Yeah, Garnacho maybe should have stayed, but to me, it's still his level with the defender. I don't think there's much in it, to be fair. It was a great finish. But then the goal, Johnny Evans is battling with the centre-back, which is fair enough. I know people say it could have been a free kick for a penalty or a free kick, 1-2. But you're right, Rice is standing himself. It's not the greatest shot, but it took a nick. I don't know if it was off Evans or the Arsenal player, and that's why I took it away for the keeper. I know people say, De Gea would have saved that. You're going to always get that. Or the former keeper would have saved that. And the third goal, United are pushing for an equaliser, and they get hit in the break, which happens. But I thought generally they actually played okay. I think he does have issues. I think he's got issues in the dressing room. You've seen that with Sancho. Who, to be fair to him, Sancho's not really set the head on fire, Stuart. He's not done coming in and done anything. And getting paid £350,000 a week, you want more. I know money's not everything, right? It doesn't mean you're a better player, but for that and the transfer fee involved, I wouldn't bother me if a Saudi team came in and took him away for 60 million. I would get him out of the club because I think we need more for players like that. But you've still got Anthony Martial leading the line. That shouldn't be happening at United. But they're again, they're under the financial fair play, whereas Chelsea are signing players left, right and centre. That's where my issue is with that. But
So am I being harsh then? Am I being harsh then, Scott? But is it just that he's just lacking certain personnel? Because again, some of the analysis I thought was kind of spot on. You mentioned Anthony. At times he was picking up really, really good positions where he could get 1-on-1 with the Arsenal defender, but he wasn't getting the ball. And Wan-Bissaka may be going into an area that he should be going into, but not doing what a John Stones would do, which would be give me the ball and I'll quickly move it and it goes wide and then we're on. Is that the issue?
I think it may be. I mean, there were two centre-backs went off, didn't they? Under Loff and Martinez, and then we get Maguire, who they try to get rid of, but then they want to leave because he's on a fortune, and they've got Johnny Evans who came back to stay fit, and he gets a year's contract. I mean, Johnny Evans was a good player in his day. He's still a better player than a lot of people, but he's not a centre-back for a team in the English Premiership. So when you're finishing the game with that, if I was Arsenal, I'm saying, we're up against Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans, we've got a chance here when you take off your two centre-backs who are smaller, but more physical, and especially Martinez. I thought they were coping well with what Arsenal were throwing. I thought the two full-backs done well. I'm not Darlow's biggest fan, but I thought he done okay. I thought the performance was fine. I prefer Rashford where he's out in the left. I don't like him through the middle. I think he gets lost through there. I think he offers nothing, but out in the left, you can see his intention. Yeah, we all know he wants to cut inside and stuff, but he's got the pace to do it a lot of the time. So I felt Sunday was better than they've shown. It needs to improve because he's not going to have ever a day to improve. But I think United are just basically a shit show, Stuart. I think off the park, it's simmering. We don't know what's happening. I think on the park, there's players there that shouldn't still be there. And there's issues in the dressing room, obviously. You've seen it with Ten Hag's come in to try to rule with an iron fist at times. And it works, but not all the time. Sancho, he gave the arm around the shoulder, didn't he? He gave it right away for a couple of months or a couple of weeks and come back when you're ready to play. He done all that with him and he's still not getting what he wants. So there's only so much you can do with a player, and then sometimes you have to say, listen, it's best for you if you go. But with player power nowadays on social media, you're always going to get the result of what we're getting. If that was in the 80s and 90s, you didn't hear about that because it stays in the dressing room. So I think he's got his work cut out. Does he blow the bear next season? I don't know. But I enjoyed Sunday as in performance-wise. The result wasn't great, but I thought they'd done okay. That was a better performance I thought they'd done against Wolves, who I thought probably should have beat them. And Forest, they were very lucky. So looking at that side, you play bad in 2 games and get 6 points. You play well in a game and you beat 3-1. So I think Amrabat might make a difference when he comes in because he's more a holding midfielder who can sit in the middle and just try and win the ball back. Eriksen, you're not going to get that from. We know what he does. And Casemiro, you said, times he's in here himself, and one guy covering that full area is a hard job for anybody. Do you know what I mean? So I feel that might help him. But you see with the signings they've made, people have got out and buying players that are players that are worth a lot of money. United that are buying guys who Amrabat they were lucky to get. Our 2 teams were in, but he was adamant he wanted to come to Man United. Obviously, it's the name, it's done it, and he's thinking I want to play at Old Trafford. Fair enough. They sold Dean Henderson to Palace for 20 million and brought in a keeper for 4. So the goal I'm not saying he's not a good keeper. I've never seen him. But you're replacing maybe players with players maybe not as good as what you're selling, just because of the financial side of it. So the club has to be fixed out on that side. And then the team is going to take a wee while before they're starting to challenge City. They might finish, hopefully, top 4. I don't think so. I think we'll be top 6, but it's going to be a long season, I think, at times, because they will get beat at times. They'll maybe get a pounding off like a City and maybe Liverpool, and then you see them maybe coming to Old Trafford, maybe beating Liverpool, because that's what can happen. But I don't think they're going to be challenging for anything this season.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And let's say, I thought from an Arsenal perspective, you see the kind of building blocks of, what Arteta had last season. that's games that they wouldn't have scored those 2 goals under Arteta's first, 2 late goals when Arteta first came in. They now look that threat, and I think when you're buying players of Declan Rice's ability, he looks. I said to Richie in previous shows, he looks as if he's always played there. He just seems to have slotted right in. I think
He
Jesus
gave him
coming
something
back.
they were missing last season, didn't he?
Yep. Up 100%. And Jesus coming back, if they can keep him fit. I still have concerns centre half wise for Arsenal. I think Saliba's a good player. I don't think they've really got a partner. I know Gabriel came back in this week, but that seems to be chopping and changing. They've been unlucky with Timbers, injury, etc. But I just wonder if they're a bit short in that area.
I think when Hoyland came on for United, he looked actually quite decent, the young boy. And I thought he was unlucky. I know people say 50-50. It could have been a penalty. And then other game I might have got a penalty. Old Trafford, that might have been a penalty because it's at Old Trafford. But other games you don't. But I thought he came on and looked good. He was up for a fight. He didn't look scared. He didn't look overawed. So I think if he's fit, he has to start because they spent money on him. He has to start. So I think from that point of view, he's trying to bring young players in who are hungry. But just because of the finance, he's struggling. Whereas Arsenal are bringing in Declan Rice. They're bringing in other guys. They brought in Trossard. They're signing young guys who are hungry to go in and win stuff. United are buying guys to fill positions because they're struggling with finances. They still get guys here like Martial, who left years ago. They're bringing back Johnny Evans. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not against Johnny Evans, but I like Johnny Evans, but he shouldn't have been back playing first team football at United. And then you can't get that players like Maguire because, and it's not their fault. You give them a contract. You give them a contract, and if they're not willing to get it anywhere else, they'll hang about because at the end of the day, you've given them that contract, you've given them that salary. So, and it's like you at work, so they gave you a 4-year deal saying, here's I don't know, 200 grand a week for 4 years, and then a couple of months later, and we don't want you here, Stuart, you have to go. You're like, well, you've given us, I'm staying here. It's just the way I would do that myself. So, I'm not against any player staying for a contract if that's what they're given. But because he's there, he's no first choice, obviously. He knows that, the manager knows that. So when he plays, as he try to show a manager he should be playing, he's just going on to justify that's his job, he has to do it. So you don't know what's happening behind the scenes either. So you could write about Ten Hag, he could be away next season, and he might still be there. I don't know.
Yeah, an interesting one, and I think I thought it was a decent game. But I thought that the ending to it was it was very entertaining to watch. So, but yeah, that brings us to the end of the recap of all the fixtures. So City are top. They're the only team that have 4 wins from 4. And then 4 teams on 10, Spurs, Liverpool, West Ham and Arsenal, Brighton on 9, Crystal Palace on 7. Making up the bottom, Burnley are bottom, Luton Town join them, they've got 0 points. Everton and Sheffield United are on 1 point each. So still obviously early days, stuff like that, but I still, you're starting to see some signs of, look, City are still in that groove, etc. And it'll be interesting to see, like, there's some clubs who are maybe had tougher starts to the season than their fans and managers, etc., would be hoping for. So, but we'll be back next week because we're international, so no fixtures this week, but we'll be back the week after. And the aim of the show, we will obviously, we'll do a kind of run through of the fixtures. We'll then have a wee look and maybe do the Super 6 for the upcoming week if people are interested in doing that. Let us know any comments that you have, any thoughts or topics that you want us to discover. We're happy to do that. But all that leaves me to do is to thank Scott. Thanks for joining me. It's good to have you back on.
No bother, Stuart. Thanks for asking me to come on again.
No worries. And thanks everybody for listening and watching. And we'll speak to you next time on the EPL show. Cheers.